Hello, and welcome to Vlogmas 2021, Day 9, December the 9th. I'm Michael Powell. In my life, I've had so many times when people would ask me, why would you want to be a mortician? And what was it like being a mortician? Well, why? After college, I got into several jobs that were okay, but they weren't real fulfilling for me. The last one would be when I was in juvenile probation, and I just didn't feel fulfilled. So I started looking around and asking questions about other careers, and I came across an ad somewhere. I'm not sure where, for the San Francisco College of Mortuary Science. So I decided to drive over to San Francisco and take a look at the college, ask a bunch of questions, uh, see what it took. Obviously, I was not aware that the course structure included so much science, uh, anatomy, physiology, biology, chemistry, microbiology. Um, and I thought, this might be a little bit difficult, but I gave it a lot of thought and I went ahead and enrolled. After I graduated and got my degree, I went to work at a mortuary. And the problem was that so many of the mortuaries these days, and when I was practicing, were owned by large conglomerates. In fact, here in the state of Florida, the the conglomerates own 97% of the mortuaries in Florida. Only 3% are still privately owned. Well, working for a conglomerate, I guess, is okay, but the problem was that their bottom line was, what's the bottom line on the contract? What did you sell them? How much did we make? And I even had friends who worked for other conglomerates who were given 90 days to reach a certain goal. And if they didn't reach it, they were terminated. This wasn't for me. I went ahead and did my job. And we get publications, trade journals in the mortuaries. And I was reading through one day, and there was an ad from Canada that wanted morticians to come up and be willing to work in the outback. And the reason being, it turned out, was that so many of the young morticians that were practicing today wanted to stay in the major cities where they had nightlife and movies, theaters, bars, nightclubs, whatever. They weren't interested in going the outback where there was very little shopping experience, certainly very little nightlife. But at any rate, I talked it over with my wife, and she said, well, it might be a possibility. Maybe we ought to look into it. So I flew up to Canada and I looked around. Actually flew up to British Columbia. And I decided, this is not bad. I kind of like it, and I think we can live like this. So I came home, talked about it with my wife, and we decided to do it. We applied. I got a work visa, and we flew up to British Columbia. We then bought a mortuary that was for sale in a town called Williams Lake, about 8 hours north of Vancouver. Now, the area that I serviced out of Williams Lake covered a couple of thousand square kilometers, meaning that a lot of the people that I had to service were 8, 10, and one even 12 hours away from the mortuary. And I had to drive out there, pick up the remains, come back to the mortuary, prepare them, and then return them to the family. So it was a chore. I was the only mortician in the building. I had a couple of people working with me to help me with funerals and driving and whatnot. But a mortician in Canada is one who is not only a funeral director, but also a licensed embalmer. So you have to be both to hold the title mortician. Any rate, there was a lot of work, but I was able to do things my way. When a family would come in, I never forced anything on them. I didn't sell them anything. They made their own choices. The law required that I explain the differences between caskets to them, such as the difference between a steel casket and a wood casket, caskets that seal and caskets that don't seal. And I did that. But then I explained to them that there's a little tag on the top of each casket, and I'm going to go back in the office and let them discuss it among themselves. And that when they made a decision, they just bring the tag to me and we will move on with the arrangements from there. The reason I did it that way is I wanted to give them the opportunity to be honest with each other without me standing there telling them, well, you should choose this one or you should choose that one, or most of our families like this one. No, that's not the way. This way, they could talk to amongst themselves and decide what they could afford and what they couldn't afford. And they didn't have to worry about anybody standing there overhearing them. So when they left my mortuary, nobody was able to say, Michael sold me a $5,000 funeral. No, they had to say, I chose a $5,000 funeral. It was my choice. That was how I ran my business. What was it like being a mortician? I will say that being there for the families was an important part. Dealing with the families was an important part. But I took a great deal of pride in the scientific end of it, in the preparing of the body for viewing. Any reconstructive surgery that might be necessary if it was an accident and there was damage to the face or hands or any viewing part. That was where I really enjoyed my job. Not sure why. It's just, well, I guess it's like creating Vlogmas. You're doing something that you're good at. You enjoy what you do. And I did enjoy it. And I know that's a sad thing to say and maybe a strange thing to say, but being there for the families at a very important time in their lives and being able to take care of everything myself was, to me, very fulfilling. So that's my story. I hope you didn't find it morbid. It is a job and it is a career and it was mine. So I guess that's about it for now. Okay, day 9 in the can, and we'll see you tomorrow. Check out those videos.